June 2019. Eric Rentamaki is in search of a unique rock called lights that he discovered. It can only be found using a specific black light.
I'm probably one of the most famous rock hounds in the world.
Suddenly, very different glowing lights in the air over the lake catch his eye. Let's push in. It looks like two objects are flying perfectly in line with each other, or they could be two lights on a large object we can't see.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The lights make no noise, and watch this. One passes directly over a ship.
It's a 1,000-foot iron ore freighter, to give you some reference on the size with that video.
When Eric checks in with the freighter, they report that they didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary. Eric watches the orbs for almost 2 hours, and then they seem to start watching him.
Yeah, it's moving towards us. Like real fast moving towards us.
Author Alexis Brooks has heard of UFOs trying to make a connection with humans.
This we see quite often in UFO footage where the light will become more illuminated, almost as if there's a communication going on between this object and the individual that's watching it. So this to me is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
In a prior episode, we discussed the sighting of an alleged ghost ship on Lake Superior. That turned out to be a mirage of a nearby island. Is there some other optical illusion at play here? Let's check in with our ace video analyst. Regular viewers will know Michael Primo as our video forensic analyst.
I did not detect any evidence to support that this was added into the video recording, that this information was created by computer imagery.
So the video is real, but Primo says the camera's image quality is poor.
We have a camera that's essentially not recording as accurately as we would expect when you point it into the sky and try to capture this information.
Next, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio examines whether the orbs could be something man-made.
One keeps fading in and out. We're not seeing any blinking lights that are mandated by the FAA, so we know that they're not aircraft. It's not impossible that they might be drones. However, one thing to know about drones is they actually have their own set of lights, and an orange light is not typically one of them.
And note that Eric tracked these orbs far longer than any consumer-grade drone can fly. Aviation analyst Tim McMillan wonders if it might be the most obvious culprit of all.
The planet Venus is very commonly mistaken for UFOs because at certain times of the year it can be extremely bright. However, this object is giving off kind of an orangish glow, and frankly, it appears to be much larger than even Venus at its largest points would look.
D'Antonio thinks the object's orange glow is the key evidence.
To me, this object matches a sky lantern profile. It'll get dimmer and brighter, and it'll start to flicker and finally go out.
But what could cause the objects to seem to approach and then retreat from the beach?
Cell phone camera footage is really hard, especially at night where you have a black sky and a singular point-like object. And what'll happen is the camera will try to focus on it. It's called focus hunting or focus seeking. And it will go big and get bloated and then shrink down again as it tries to focus. And somebody could mistake that for an object racing toward them and then racing away.
But just because the camera can't hold focus on the orbs doesn't explain what they are. And Eric and his clients saw them for over 2 hours, far longer than sky lanterns can stay aloft.
It is categorically a UFO in that it's unidentified.
This was not a hoax. And while it might not be an alien craft, it remains a genuine, unidentified object. What's for certain is that Eric Rentamaki is still out there hunting Uper-like rocks and now UFOs. Happy hunting, brother. October 17th, 2021. United Flight 267 is making its way from Boston, Massachusetts to Denver, Colorado. At 8:50 a.m. local time, the plane is about to cross over Lake Michigan when a passenger noticed something amiss in the morning sky. The cell phone video shows hazy fields below, and in the center of the frame, a white tic-tac shaped object moving from left to right in a straight, steady path. Science writer Amy Title says it's the oblong shape that intrigues her the most.
One of the things that really jumps out in this video is the shape of whatever this object is. That it has that kind of tic-tac shape is very reminiscent of other UAP or UFO sightings in recent years.
In fact, it's that odd shape that was also witnessed in what is now considered one of the most famous and important UFO videos ever recorded.
The first sighting came from pilot Chad Underwood, who was flying off the USS Nimitz on November 14th, 2004. What he saw was an object that he described as looking vaguely tic-tac shaped, and he coined the term Tic-tac UFO. And ever since that first sighting, which has been released to the public from the Pentagon, there's been a slew of sightings of similarly tic-tac shaped UFOs.
Title also points out that the location where this video was allegedly recorded is in an area notorious for bizarre and mysterious events.
The Michigan Triangle is drawn between the cities of Ludington and Benton Harbor in Michigan and Manitowoc in Wisconsin. The earliest instance of a ship disappearing was actually in 1891, when a schooner went across the lake and disappeared overnight with 7 sailors on board. And then there was a Northwest Airlines flight that disappeared over Lake Michigan in 1950. And ever since, there have been theories that some disturbance or something over Lake Michigan causes strange things to happen.
So we've got the Michigan Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, and there is another area known as the Alaska Triangle, which also lays claim to strange disappearances. What is it about these areas that wreak havoc on planes and ships? Some have theorized magnetic interference, and in the case of Bermuda, even methane gas emissions from the ocean floor. But did one passenger capture a glimpse into the mystery surrounding the Michigan Triangle? We'll let our experts make the call. First up, physicist Matthew Shadagas compares the object seen in the video to what was seen in the Nimitz footage released by the Pentagon in 2020.
The coloration and shape, at least superficially, appear to be similar. But it does not appear to exhibit any strange velocity or acceleration that are associated with the Nimitz Tic-tac encounter and similar famous Navy UFO incidents.
Shadagas also warns that due to the low resolution and the limitations of modern digital zoom cameras, the object may not be exactly as it appears.
We cannot definitively say that the object is tic-tac or elliptically shaped, given that we don't know whether it's even in perfect focus, because it may not always be possible to have everything crystal clear with crisp edges in perfect focus.
So if this isn't a Tic-tac UFO, and may not even be Tic-tac shaped, what is it?
We don't see a whole lot of detail, but we can surmise based on its speed and the potential direction that his aircraft is going, that this was a passing by of another aircraft below them.
But if it's just another aircraft, why doesn't it have wings, propellers, or any of the other standard features associated with any known flying machine?
My gut feeling is that because the resolution is not good and because the wing color kind of blends in with the surrounding terrain. There are some hints in the video. We can see a little notch below here, which might be part of a wing root of a commercial aircraft. So the back end could be where the tail of the plane is, and this notch could be where the wing is coming away.
So if it's just an airplane, why does it look like a white Tic-tac?
Many commercial aircraft are white, and the reason they use that titanium white is because it reflects a lot of the sunlight back, keeps the interior cool, climate controlled. So that is something we would expect to see. The wings are silver, and that silver or aluminum color is many times not visible on days where the sun is not out. And this is one of those days that is somewhat overcast.
But we try not to rely on hunches around here. So based on D'Antonio's conclusions, we checked out the flight data, and there was indeed another plane, Delta 2474, passing United 267 in the opposite direction at the same time and place where this video was recorded.
We may not be seeing all the details. I don't see anything out of the ordinary for a passing commercial aircraft.
Our verdict? The evidence all points to the theory that this is a commercial airplane. It just looks like a tic-tac because of the camera lens, the sunlight, and the color of the plane. June 29th, 2017. On Yale Lake in southwest Washington. Two men take their kayaks out for a relaxing afternoon when the calm waters are suddenly disturbed.
Weird.
The video seems to show bubbles rising to the surface of the water in the center of the lake as the kayakers paddle towards them.
Just bubbles coming from the bottom of the lake. No current. I'm afraid to put my hand in the water.
One kayaker dips his camera below the waterline, and we see debris and thousands of bubbles swirling.
Weird though, dude.
The bubbling is so intense, the other kayaker panics and paddles off.
Go, go, go.
Then an ominous burst of murky brown water erupts as hundreds of leaves are belched up to the surface.
What the What the just happened? Something just happened that we caught on camera. Dude, it stinks.
Field researcher and author Ken Gerhardt tries to help us understand what we're seeing in the video.
My first thoughts are, is there something alive beneath the water that's creating these bubbles and this disturbance in the water? Yale Lake is connected to the Columbia River, which has been said to be home to this massive creature called colossal clod. Sightings date back to the early 1930s. The general physical description is a huge animal, about 40 feet long, with a serpentine, although a very thick, powerful body, and what was described as a very evil, snaky head. Many of the lakes around the world where these monsters have been reported all boast healthy populations of salmon and trout. So perhaps these lake monsters might also live in the ocean and follow the salmon populations into fresh water to feed.
There are dozens, maybe thousands of undiscovered creatures inhabiting the world's lakes. Recently, researchers uncovered around 40 new species in Lake Imweru, located between Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo. But was whatever these kayakers saw a creature from the deep? Let's see what's swimming in our experts' thought bubbles. Marine biologist Dr. Shay Conger begins her analysis by addressing the lake monster theory.
The number of salmon in the Columbia River has dramatically decreased. And this is an important resource, not only for humans, but for wildlife. So if there was some sort of abnormally large animal in Yale Lake, it probably wouldn't have a lot of food to live off of. And so it's pretty unlikely that there are undiscovered large animals in Yale Lake. There are actually a couple of freshwater seal populations in the world. But if this were something like a seal or a whale, we would definitely see the animal itself. And seals really only hold their breath for maybe 20 minutes at a time.
What about those bubbles? Geologist Bob Anderson helps us figure out what could be happening here.
Natural gas and oil are formed between sedimentary layers. And you get a lot of carboniferous materials that are from the time before the dinosaurs. And these areas get buried deep down. And that pressure and heat causes those organic materials to break down into hydrocarbons. And all it takes is a crack in the rock, and they just release and they pop real fast.
The Carboniferous period occurred 300 million years ago. So these organic materials have been building pressure for quite some time, just waiting to blow.
When you look at the video and you add in the combination of those bubbles and the smell at the end.
Dude, it stinks.
To me, it's a dead clue that it's some type of a natural gas that's coming up.
This happens all over the world. Massive underwater craters have been discovered off the coast of Norway, up to 147 feet deep and 2,624 feet wide. Researchers have deemed them the cause of expulsions of gas rising to the surface in the area. Our verdict? Natural gas. The smell was the clincher. The kayaker complained about the horrible aroma, which is a common attribute of methane gas when it mixes with hydrogen sulfide, causing a rotten egg odor. While the men didn't come across colossal clod, they did still stumble upon a remarkable piece of natural history. 2007, near Traverse Bay, Michigan. Underwater archaeologist Dr. Mark Holley and his team of divers are scouring the lake bottom.
We were out looking for a specific shipwreck. It's just flat sand for as far as you can go. And it's just very eerie.
Instead of a wreck, they stumble across something much older. At first glance, it's just a line of stones, but Holley says there's more to it.
I knew that we'd found something that shouldn't be there, but we had no idea what it was.
One set of stones forms a circle, and strangest of all, look at this. One of the stones appears to have a detailed carving of a mastodon, here outlined with red chalk. Holley estimates the site was constructed around 10,000 years ago, before the glaciers melted to create the lake. Of course, Holley's video goes viral.
Almost immediately, people described it as a fake. Nothing like this had ever been found in the Great Lakes before.
Real or not, the discovery becomes known as the Lake Michigan Stonehenge and raises the question, was it made by the same people who built England's famed structure? Professor of anthropology Michael Masters raises a controversial theory that ancient Europeans migrated to the Americas long before Columbus.
This tool technology associated with groups largely in France indicates that they came across between 20,000 and 15,000 years ago.
Paleolithic Europeans in America? While some scholars are open to the idea, others point out that ancient Native Americans created their own astounding sites, like those of the mound builders in the Mississippi Valley. So who made it and how? And what does it mean? One more thing to ponder. There's a region known for strange disappearances and anomalous sightings called the Lake Michigan Triangle. Early reports put the find there, but Holley now says it's north in Grand Traverse Bay. So what do our experts have to say about this fascinating find? First, we ask archaeologist Peter Campbell if this could all be a hoax. He points to the moss and algae on the stones.
If they had been placed recently, then there would be no marine growth on them whatsoever. The formation as well appears to be a genuine archaeological site.
Campbell thinks the find is ancient and man-made. And if the mastodon carving is real, it might provide a window into a long-lost culture.
It's possible that this really had some sort of religious connotation and perhaps a religious offering or ritual related to the hunt.
But still, how did they carve that image into granite rock? Anthropologist Kathy Strain says it would have been difficult, but very doable.
So in order to make a petroglyph, it's a very simple process. It is taking a rock and pecking at the patina that's on the outside of the target rocks. Granite is a hard substance, but no special tools would have been needed. Rock art appears around the world using a similar method, and none of those people had anything other than a rock.
As far as comparisons to the English Stonehenge.
Stonehenge is a group of rocks put into a circle for a religious purpose, and were very heavy to move, and we are still not entirely certain how they accomplished it. The rocks at the bottom of Lake Michigan are more in a line.
Take another look at the arrangement of the Lake Michigan stones. Strain says it's very revealing.
This is likely what we call a drive line, and you use it to herd animals into either over a cliff or into some kind of fenced area. So it's a very efficient way of hunting.
It would be the oldest drive or hunting line ever found. When the glaciers melted more than 10,000 years ago, they submerged the site at the bottom of Lake Michigan, preserving it to this day. And Campbell thinks it could be groundbreaking in other ways.
If this is in fact a mastodon drawn on this rock, then it is a monumental discovery because this would be the earliest Paleo-Indian art that's been discovered so far.
Our verdict? Well, Mark Holley definitely discovered something man-made. We think by early Native American tribes, not early European immigrants.